This story begins with the second awakening of Action. All the control stones cannot withstand the pressure and break. If the main character stays here, she will definitely die. But she can't just leave Action like that and walk away. Having grabbed him, the girl asks Action to come to his senses. But from his behavior, she understands that he is not awake. If the heroine escapes, Action will die right here. It was he who caught the heroine's eye, and she couldn't leave him. If she dies, Hyacinth will be left alone and will blame himself. The heroine asks Action to wake up and see that she is in front of him. It doesn't work, and there is only one way left. If he later starts talking about the first kiss, she won't let him get away with it. After these words, the girl pressed her lips to his. In this fantasy novel, there is a concept called the awakened. There are those who go beyond the human, displaying abilities, espers, and there are those who control and stabilize the magic of espers, the guides. These awakened ones are considered a weapon and national power. In the kingdom of Valger, where the events of the novel take place, after the founding of the Officer Academy, they find those who have the potential to become awakened and enroll them in the academy. Then they are brought to the second awakening, being trained as an esper or guide. The main character only now realized that she had been transported into a novel. She realized this during the second awakening guide of her peer. She possessed a guide extra who died after being hit by a second awakening. Action, born an illegitimate son into a ducal family. He is like fantasy protagonists who have trauma. Action experiences an incident that leaves him with a terrible injury. His unstable nature as an esper makes things worse. He notices a woman, the main character Milia. It would be nice if it all ended there. But as luck would have it, the main villain of this fantasy turns out to be the heroine's brother. As befits a villain, a tragic death awaits him. It seemed as if Lippi had spoken her thoughts out loud. The teacher asked what happened to Lippi. Lippi was fine, because guiding is just holding hands, and since the awakening is over, they can go. If there are any problems later, Lippi may come back. There are significantly fewer guides than espers. Lippi's body belongs not only to her, but also to the state. This is a place where even children are treated like weapons. It's good that the heroine remembered everything right away. First, she needs to check what date it is today. The date and time of the guided tour are stored on the bracelet. There are 6 months left before the main character enters the academy. Lippi has no time to think, because she might die. In order for her to survive, she must change these 6 months. She needs to set a goal and take action. She applied for academic leave to go home. But first, the teacher wants to talk to her. Lippi just missed her brother. After waking up, he lives alone, and he has no one else except Lippi. Besides, after graduation, she will be sent straight to the garrison. The teacher allowed Lippi to take academic leave. She's only making allowances because Lippi is a valuable asset. Lippi should not forget that she is not just a student. The bracelet will notify the teacher and supervisors of any unauthorized guiding. Lippi shouldn't cause any trouble and come back quickly. Lippi promises that he will try his best. Now she has to change her destiny and the destiny of Hyacinth. After that, she boarded the magic train and went to Lorraine County. But the main question remains, why? Lippi came to the place where the person she wanted to meet was. From the very beginning, all the disappointing moments from the original plot need to be eliminated. In the novel, Hyacinth lived as if awakened in the house of his patrons. But they were bad patrons and beat Hyacinth. Memories of that time became a trauma for Hyacinth. He became a dark, behind-the-scenes schemer and villain. Deciding to avenge the past, Hyacinth kills the entire family of Count Lorraine. Lippi doesn't want Hyacinth to live in pain. She came to visit him, knowing that he lived here, but she was told that he was at work now. It seems that this man considers Lippi to be a relative of the servant. He assures her that the walk will be cool, because he knows a couple of good bars. He asks her to come in to show him the mansion. Lippi can only enter thanks to him, and this must remain a secret. Along the way, Lippi tells us that her brother's name is Gis. He decides to guess her name too. Lippi herself became curious whether he would be able to guess. But suddenly, Lippi gets distracted by some construction. He became gloomy, saying that there was a training ground there where it was better not to go. But Lippi doesn't understand what training has to do with not being allowed to go there. The man said that there were many serious scenes there for women's eyes. So, Lippi saw how her only relative was being beaten. The hair that she combed herself became brittle. It's unclear how many people would be able to contain their anger after seeing something like this. Maybe because she concentrated the purified transcendental mana, she is quite strong. Causing a stir on the very first day of vacation sounds exciting. The warden doesn't understand why she suddenly attacked him. Lippi says she's not an esper, and she attacked because she saw that he was beating her brother. Lippi warned her brother that the man had only been slightly electrocuted. Knowing full well what pain is, he still does it. The man began to apologize to Lippi. The control stone became hot. The signal must have reached the guards. Lippi could be taken away and locked up in a military prison. And then Gisu will have to survive alone. He is very afraid to be alone again. But it's too late to think, because the guards are already here. The escort told them that Lippi had tried to harm the gentleman. The guards received reports that she was using magic. Lippi will not make any excuses and will accept his punishment. The king pays special attention to the special awakened ones. But they, the guards, are only doing their duty. Lippi files a complaint that the entire county has been subjected to potential awakened violence. The man asks why she is lying and turning the situation around. But the awakened one attacked the one who had not yet awakened. In any case, the unauthorized use of magic is a crime. But the stated reason contradicts the state law established by His Majesty. From this moment on, no one from the Count's house will leave the mansion. An investigation begins. If the charges are confirmed, they will not only be stripped of their title, they will be sentenced to imprisonment for a term of 5 years. Even a potential awakened one is a state property. The Count knows no fear, since he dared to encroach on the property of His Majesty. But before that, they will personally place Lippi into custody. Lippi asks her brother to calm down, saying that everything will be fine. For some reason, her body suddenly stopped obeying her. All her actions are the result of careful calculation. She had planned in advance to turn his abilities into a means of self-defense. But suddenly, a boss monster, the prince of this country, appeared. He suddenly appeared, although it is unclear how this is connected with the incident. Maybe it's because in the original, Hyacinth turned out to be the son of the crown prince. The prince thinks that now is not the time for jokes. The expected rank of potential awakened ones is impossible to guess. But sometimes there are cases when it can be appreciated. The prince doesn't intend to use her brother. He wants to protect him. It's strange that Lippi took a vacation in the middle of the semester. It was as if she suddenly found out that her brother was being bullied. Maybe she found out he was going to become an esper. Lippi might have decided that leaving her brother alone would get him into trouble. The psyche of an esper is fragile, like glass. Lippi is a guide, neither high nor low rank. And there can only be one reason why she went to her brother. Thank you for explaining everything so clearly and not understanding anything. The prince wants to connect her and her brother with a family of even greater status. Gra-Lorraine will be stripped of her patron status. As soon as the prince leaves the room, Lippi will be released. The more he looks at her, the more unusual she is. He was the first to call her unusual. A guide for the new patron will come from outside. His name is Bronthern Nacheta Lorenum. This is the family of the main character, Actaeon. When Lippi came out, Gis bombarded her with questions about her condition. Even when Lippi helps, all he does is grumble. In any case, she asks him to stop crying. The butler of the Bronthern house has appeared and will escort her to the estate. Lippi is surprised that they sent the butler so quickly. The mansion turned out to be indecently huge. Now Gis understands a little why that guy spoke like that. It was unpleasant, but he was so happy to know that he didn't have to carry anything. Since he smiles at Hyacinth's sarcasm, it means he is confident that he can somehow tame him. But Lippi is not going to give up her brother voluntarily. She is confident that she and Gis will escape from this country and live happily ever after. Therefore, it is necessary to keep in check the forces that are drawn to the His, especially the Crown Prince Sibyllin. He became close to Gis, who was killed by the hero and later became the cause of the collapse of his life. The best way to avoid meeting this man is to go with Lippi to the academy. Judging by the strange reaction, it won't be that long until the first awakening. A reason or incentive is needed for the first awakening. It is best if there is an esprit of similar rank nearby. Blair told Actaeon that the process was taking a bit long, so he was delayed. Even before entering the academy, Actaeon already moves in a military manner. Besides, he is indecently handsome. Lippi decides to introduce herself and her brother to him. Actaeon asks Blair to quickly take them to their rooms. It was still obvious that it would be difficult for them to become friends. Gis asked if they had to live here. Actaeon has an older brother, the second main male character. Not only is he very sensitive, but he also constantly spews insults. But thanks to the main character Milia, he copes and desperately clings to her. Actaeon asks his brother to prepare for dinner. But he doesn't want to dine in the same room with the unawakened. Even if he doesn't want to, his father won't tolerate his absence. But since he decided to take custody of an unawakened one, he probably has a good rank. But he doesn't understand why Lippi was dragged here. They may be fighting for hierarchy over the issue of succession, because in this house, the next head is determined by rank. Plus, there was the incident with Claire, Cassiel's twin. Leapy thought that Actaeon would suffer from injury because of this incident. Father heard that Leapy's brother had a promising future, but Leapy reminded him that he hadn't woken up yet. The fact that he is here does not mean that he needs help, but the father doesn't understand why Leapy should stay here. This is the head of the Bronthern house, and an influential Esper. When an Esper and a guide become spouses, they usually imprint on each other. When imprinting, you can customize your magic in advance for a unique partner. Guiding becomes possible only in relation to an imprinted partner. The Duke not only imprinted on the Duchess, but also cheated on her. Actaeon lost his mother at an early age. The Duke saw in Actaeon only a useful potential awakened one. He broke off the engagement of a Duchess whose lover had forced her to marry him. But he didn't even imprint on her and cheated on her. It's no wonder he doesn't like Lippy's class level. But Leapy herself would be the first to refuse such a family. She worries that her rank could harm the house's reputation. After all, her original goal was to protect her brother. Leapy has no reason to get involved with this place. She will be quiet for 6 months. She will change only what she can, and then leave this place immediately. The Duke allegedly feels very sorry that everything is turning out this way. He hopes they have a good rest. The atmosphere almost made Lippy choke. Actaeon's brother said that she had a talent for hypocrisy. But Ippy doesn't really like to stand out. He guesses that she just doesn't want to do it. The reason for Cassiel's weakness is the incident with Claire. She was Cassiel's fraternal twin. Claire found herself under pressure to go to war. She went crazy until her mind finally broke. For Cassiel, it was like he had lost a family member. And for Actaeon, it was like this, that he was the only one who was kind to him. And he dies a terrible death. This left Actaeon with a huge trauma. And Cassiel found himself with an anger that he didn't know where to direct. It was resentment against the country that had driven Claire out and driven her to death. Cassiel is angry that Leapy is openly ignoring his words. Lowering his voice, he asks her to get out of here. Leapy is surprised that he tolerated her for so long. The Duke said he would find them a suitable family. But for Gis, there is no difference between there and here. He asked Leapy if this was really why she had brought the Lorraines to this state. She is now suffering humiliation before his eyes. If she had to endure this because of Gis's rank, then he didn't need such a family. But he needs her, because Leapy is going to enroll him in the academy. Leapy had a premonition that Gis would soon awaken. And in the Count's house, her magic reacted to him. She didn't get involved, because she was afraid that it would be harder for him. Since this is how it happened, it is better for them to be together now. Hyacinth just needs to wake up during this time. Leapy assures him that he can trust her. It's natural for her to be an outcast here. The Duke is a man who is very fixated on rank and achievement. Gisu just needs help as a ward. Leapy does not want him, like many others, to die from the Duke's greed. Therefore, she would not want him to pry into the family's secrets unnecessarily. Actaeon found it unusual for them to discuss the affairs of someone else's family. They seemed to be well aware of this place. It was as if he had guessed that they were going to get help and escape. Leapy asks her brother to go upstairs while she talks. Leapy told Actaeon that her family could have found themselves in the same situation. But Action is interested in how she found out about their family affairs. Showing him that Leapy knows a lot is dangerous. It was announced that an ES rank Esper had suddenly died at the front. Leapy simply filtered out the most ridiculous rumors about this. And then, surprisingly, plausible guesses may emerge. And also, because Leapy might find herself in a similar situation, Actaeon is pushed to the front lines at a young age and ordered to kill people. This is not the best excuse for meddling in other people's family affairs. Normal people wouldn't want to send their child to the front lines. If Actaeon says it's a duty, then of course he needs to be sent to the front. Since he has already heard about their situation, he should understand. Therefore, Leapy told her brother not to contact the Duke's family in order to prepare for unforeseen circumstances. Leapy was sorry that she had spoken so carelessly. If Actaeon's father or brother had heard this, the patronage would have been revoked. But Leapy doesn't want to go out of her way where they are not considered human. From the moment they arrived at the mansion, Actaeon treated her as if she were a nobody, and the attitude of his father and brother was even worse. Even the servant introduced to her looked down on her. Actaeon stated that he did not treat her like a nobody. In fact, Actaeon simply didn't want to get closer. He didn't have time to finish what he started, suddenly grabbing his chest with his hand. This is similar to the symptoms of First Awakening. Leapy didn't expect this to happen today. Actaeon denies that everything is fine and asks to call Blair. But now we need not Blair, but hide. She asked if there was anyone here who could do it. Judging by Actaeon's silence, there are none. This means that now, except Leapy, no one can help. She's not sure if it's right for her to help now. She can die during guiding, like in the original. But what was she thinking about? Looking at the suffering man, Leapy promised the professor not to run into problems, but ends up creating them herself. She doesn't care if she gets jailed when she says she helped. Lipa asks Actaeon not to forget today. You need to find the place where the magic is tangled and untangle it. But it turned out not to be magic, but Actaeon's emotions. She asks Actaeon to wait while she conducts the guiding. But he had never heard of emotions being synchronized during guiding. Luckily, Lippy managed to unravel the magic. But suddenly, Action's heart sucked in her ability. She didn't think that the guiding of an S-rank Esper was always like this. Leapy suddenly loses consciousness and falls down. When Leapy woke up, she saw her brother. Besides him, Actaeon was also in the room. He asked if she always lived impulsively one day at a time. At that moment, she knew that guiding was dangerous. What was she thinking when she did this? But the situation was extreme, and Lipa could not leave him. If it weren't for Leapy, Actaeon would already be in the next world. Jis believes that it is his business to reproach her and get angry. Leapy would like to know what happened while she was unconscious. But nothing unusual happened that she should worry about. She thought she would wake up in a cell for solitary awakened people. In fact, Lipa was unconscious for 2 days. First, she needs to eat and then think. It's surprising that she was moved to a room in a higher class. Actaeon asked her what she thought he felt when she lost consciousness before his eyes. He must have been at a loss, pondering all the possible consequences. Lippy apologized for doing things her way, but thanks to her, he avoided a dangerous moment. So it's better for him to just thank her. She is glad that he is better now. Jis warned that he wouldn't get away with it just like that. The administration said that due to the special first manifestation, Leapy's mana reaction was close to abnormal. The proof is that Actaeon's rank is high. Leapy could have become crippled, or her heart could have exploded. If Leapy hadn't saved him, given the Duke's character, he would have blamed her. Actaeon thanks Leapy, because thanks to her he is alive and well. Jis was indignant that he immediately rushed to kiss his hand. Leapy also asks him to leave the room while she eats. It is unknown what will happen during the second awakening. Milia from the novel woke up late. Therefore, during the second awakening of Actaeon, Milia was unable to carry out the guiding. Leapy needs to recruit another high-ranking guide. Suddenly, someone wanted to visit the lady. The Duchess sent him to inquire about her condition. It turned out to be a guy named Beld. Leapy doesn't want to make the guest stand. He acts as if he is Leapy's supervisor. He suddenly asked if she liked quizzes. When she replied that she didn't, Beld decided to arrange it for her anyway. He asked Leapy to guess who he was. She feels like she's met a second Isidore. If Beld just says it, it won't be interesting. When Leapy asked what shampoo he used, he replied that he made it himself. His clothes are neat and his manners are elegant. Judging by the description, Leapy decided that he was a pharmacist. If a person knows how to take care of cleanliness, he is most likely a doctor. If he needs it, he will also get a medical license. Beld has prepared a medicine that will help Leapy regain her strength. They were allowed into the royal palace first. Leapy finds out that it is Archnexium. In times of fervor, pharmacists were as valuable as guides. Purified alien magic has powerful effects. Nexium Enhanced is the ultimate version. There are few pharmacists who can create this. Beld turned out to be a very important person. He decided that she should rest some more. When people like Leapy don't listen, things get worse. Beld promises to return later while she is resting. If word gets around that Leapy was vomiting blood, Hyacinth will definitely do something. She needs to get better and find a new guide. As luck would have it, Leapy fell ill for a whole week. All this time, Beld came every morning and checked on her condition. And each time he brought her a new medicine. And from today, Leapy can finally move. Leapy was the only person who asked if he could get out of bed all week. Hyacinth told Action that they did not need his help. And he said that now it would be better if he helped. Gis heard it from somewhere and ran over to take a walk with Leapy. And now Actaeon has jumped out like a jack-in-the-box. Leapy feels like the Pied Piper of Hamelin. It would be better to order the carriage to be prepared a little later. Actaeon's brother is also getting ready to go out. He's in the mood today. So Cassiel wants to go for a walk. Cassiel doesn't need to bother with Lippy. If they collide, it is unknown how he will react to her. Leapy noticed Cassiel getting into the carriage. Hyacinth declared that Actaeon's help was no longer needed. But Action said that he also had things to do today. If they board different carriages, their preparation will take longer. Leapy flicked him because he irritated her. Recently, the department received another notification of unauthorized activity. Hearing that Lippi was in this bank, the prince cheerfully called her. For a bank reception area, surprisingly, it's not bad. For some reason, today all plans go awry. Eventually, Actaeon joined their company. Lippi just came to the bank, and the main boss was there. It's good that at least Action and Hyacinth went about their business. Lippi doesn't want to imagine what would have happened if the three of them had met. Thanks to the prince, Lippi is treated better. He asked what was going on with the incident that happened that day. Actaeon had his first awakening, and Lippi helped him. It seems that today, Lippi came to check on the compensation the prince spoke of. The prince wanted to follow Lippi because he had a free day. After all, taking notes on the lives of the people is also an important duty. The prince decided that in such cases, he needed to treat. He suggests going to a restaurant. He hopes that she will not openly call him Your Highness. Mr. Isidore will be enough. The prince also suggests defining roles. An aristocrat, hiding his status, went out for a walk with a commoner. Lippi had already forgotten that Actaeon and Hyacinth were waiting for her outside. She warned that she had quite a few accompanying persons, but it will be noisy and fun. Next, we move to the shopping district. Fortunately, the chef's skills were top-notch. He told Lippi to pay, but it was a joke. Lippi asked if he wanted something from her. He will not let go so easily of one who has awakened and acted arbitrarily. The next place they go to is the cathedral. Lippi realized she had gotten herself into something strange. All of Isidore's actions are aimed at luring Lippi to his side. He emphasizes that he himself resolved the incident that she caused. And even now, when Lippi began to suspect him, he immediately pointed it out. In society, the prince is called a slob. They say he is not interested in state affairs, but he can't be such a frivolous person. Actaeon will also try to figure out what he wants. En route, they go to the cathedral. But Actaeon's brother will also go there today. But the probability that they will not meet is high. Lippi hopes they don't run into Cassiel at the cathedral. Most of the country's inhabitants worship the god of love and peace. The cathedral is the pride and symbolic building of the capital. Here they pray for the families going off to war, and also conduct funerals for soldiers. It's impossible to get used to this sight, no matter how much you watch it. However, Lippi and Hyacinth also lost their families due to the war. As children, they lived in a small town near the border. The magic of a powerful Esper swept away their city during the war. And from the whole family, only Lippi and Hyacinth miraculously survived. To survive, Lippi took on any job. Hyacinth was also recognized as having a high potential for awakening. It became possible to place the urn with the ashes of their parents in the Great Temple. They came to the temple together for the first time. Lippi asked him why he was so frozen. Actaeon seems to be looking for Cassiel all this time. Claire's urn is probably placed here too. However, he himself said that they should not meet. So there is no need to be so careful. But Cassiel was here too. As soon as I thought about him, he was here. He didn't expect to see Actaeon here with a low-class girl. He thinks that Claire in heaven is very happy that he brought such a friend. But Actaeon corrected that Lippi did not come here because of Claire. Cassiel is sure that Actaeon told Lippi everything. Actaeon tells him that one day he will greatly regret this. He realized how much one can regret words that can hurt others. He felt so bad, and his brother would feel even worse. There is nothing strange about a cadet coming to pray. The prince who appeared said that Cassiel had misunderstood his words. Knowing about his own pain, he does not understand that others also experience pain. And now he has calmed down only because the prince stands in the position of ruler. If he were anyone else, Cassiel wouldn't have acted like this. The prince asked Lippi why she visited the temple. Lippi said that they came to visit the ashes of their parents. Such situations are too exhausting and tiring. Lippi understands why there is a misunderstanding that she is here. But if Cassiel is in pain, that doesn't mean he can hurt others. She asked him if he had ever had to eat the carcass of a dead rat, because he was hungry. But Cassiel was outraged that she knew nothing about him. Lippi knows, but still tries her best to live well. Cassiel's sadness is acknowledged without having to be proven. Lippi leaves, deciding to return after finishing her business. That's why she couldn't love Cassiel from the original. After all, he needed tenderness to melt his wounds. But Lippi's life is too harsh to be tender with anyone. Next time, Lippi and her brother should come here alone. She noticed that Cassiel still hadn't left. The atmosphere between him and Actaeon seems tense. Unexpectedly, Cassiel invites Lippi into his carriage. Hyacinth immediately became indignant and stood up for Lippi. Cassiel thinks he only misspoke in front of Lippi. Action also cannot allow him to be left alone with Lippi. Yet he showed rudeness inside the cathedral. If he wants to apologize, he will have to apologize properly. Lippi is curious what Cassiel will say. Eventually, she gets into his carriage. If Cassiel continues to hesitate, she will get out of the carriage. Gis hopes he's not going to spout nonsense again. Cassiel confirmed that he used his wounds as an excuse to avoid everything. Lippi asked why he couldn't just ask for forgiveness. Cassiel did so, apologizing for jumping to conclusions about her. Vzaman Lippi wants to hear what kind of person the one who died was. More precisely, she wants to hear about Claire's guide. After all, this is the man who has such an impact on Actaeon's injury. Cassiel is angry in a one-sided manner. Claire was one of those who received the S-class rank. Because of the war, she began to suffer from hallucinations. Even experienced soldiers went crazy when they found themselves on the battlefield. Claire's psyche could not bear the weight of death. Even if a person has monstrous strength, it does not mean that he is strong in spirit. Now Lippi understands why the guide couldn't do anything for her and died with her. Espers take in external magical power with their hearts and use it. Therefore, guides use guiding to control the blow received by the Esper. But Claire's condition was not caused by magical power, but by stress. Cassiel probably needed some hope. Naturally, he placed his hopes on the guide. Even after realizing his trauma, Cassiel is in no position to talk about it. He apologizes again for judging Lippi at his own discretion. If the guiding had actually been effective, Claire would have survived. Lippi's desire to protect her brother made her look like she was going crazy. After all, he saw how she, being the sister of an Esper, attracted Isidore's attention. But the awakened Espers cannot draw any conclusion. In that case, it's safer to keep Hyacinth within her sight. An Action, who successfully survived the Second Awakening, should be given to the main heroine. But Actaeon may die due to an accident or on the battlefield. Then, all of Lippi's desperate attempts to change the future will lose their meaning. For some reason, she thought about it only now. The only option left is to stage a revolution. Cassiel understands that apologizing alone won't fix anything, but Lippi is one of those who forgets bad words pretty quickly. And Cassiel is not one to apologize to just anyone. She told him that was the mark of an asshole. Just started showing his weakness, and then he starts doing his own thing again. You have to be gentle with him, because he can be useful. Until the law changes, they cannot avoid either the Cadet Academy or being sent to the battlefield. Lippi congratulates Cassiel on finding a worthy target for his anger. If it comes down to it, the guide also died because of the Esper. But this does not mean that the problem is with the Espers. There is no guarantee that after this war ends, another one will not start. The problem is with the people who send minors to the battlefield. Cassiel asks her not to say such dangerous things. If Hyacinth has enough strength in 6 months, he will be sent to the front lines. Lippi said she would take him and flee the country. She won't let them do this to him. She will run away, even if she has to risk her life. The only reason she didn't run away was because she hoped she could make a difference. Let Cassiel decide for himself what to do. In 6 months, Lippi will return to the academy, but she doesn't want to say what she'll do there. Cassiel is also planning to return, and he feels like he'll need Lippi for that. But this does not mean that Lippi will agree to help him. At last they arrived. Cassiel even helped Lippi out of the carriage. It will be enough for him if Lippi brings him to his senses from time to time. Although, he promises that he will try to cope on his own. Lippi hopes that he won't take out his anger on her without reason. It all ended up not so bad. 2 months have passed since Lippi spoke to Cassiel. Cassiel began to monitor her mood and often talked to her. Lippi continued to communicate with him dryly, but his obsessive friendliness was beginning to get on my nerves. But in Lippi's situation, this was a small thing. She searched for the main character for 2 months, but never found her. Lippi arrived at the academy on the day she died. According to the story, all this time she was looking for Milia, but she never found her. A few days ago, she told Belde that she was looking for something, and then she found herself in some pretty awkward situations. The Second Awakening of Actaeon will begin after the ceremony, and Lippi cannot bear this sin alone. She's been compiling a list of high-level guides for the past 2 days, but all capable cadets are already at the front lines. Lippi will have to endure it. She can't leave her brother alone. There is no other way out. She and Actaeon must die. Cassiel noted that Lippi didn't look very well. He asked what was the matter, but he was better off not knowing. She said she just needed to apply for a return. Actaeon and his will sort things out themselves and can go to the ceremony. Since they are on different courses, it will be more difficult for them to see each other. Actaeon wants to go to them later, and Geese too, but they need to meet and communicate with their classmates. She'll still have to check on Actaeon. In the end, she allowed me to come in to see her. Actaeon promises to take care of Hyacinth. He asks him not to pretend to be innocent. A strange feeling came over Cassiel. Lippi asks him not to interfere. She needs to file a report. They constantly ask Leapy something, trying to dig up information. You need to look into the dorm and then go to the ceremony. As far as Leapy remembers, Milia entered this year. In the central region, its traces have already been lost. It is unlikely that she ran away, hiding from the administration's surveillance. The S-rank guide that is needed now may die. Even if Milia is caught, they won't torture her. The best option would be if it were here, as in the original. The urgent problem now is the second awakening of Actaeon. In the novel, after Lipa's death, several guides had difficulty stabilizing Actaeon's condition. If only she knew who the A-rank guide was back then, it would have been easier. Milia will have a second awakening later. Her powers were awakened by a terrorist attack carried out by her enemies. Actaeon's magic went out of control, and they both found themselves on the brink of death. But the thoughts that haunt Leapy seem delusional. In that case, she is no better than those who sit at the top. Unexpectedly, she bumped into Milia in the corridor. When she was looking for it so hard, it was not there. But now it was here. Milia had heard that the suppression stones in the Garden of Oaths were working as intended. She was asked to hand it over to the research lab. But Milia is lost and doesn't know where to go. The Garden of Oaths was designed specifically for abnormal awakenings. If the suppression stones work as intended, Leapy might survive. Leapy asked if Milia would be able to walk to the hall where the ceremony would take place on her own. She will go to the Garden of Oaths instead of her. She needs to check everything immediately. There is no time at all. She asked the professor if the stones in the garden were working properly. She doesn't have time to explain, so she'll have to lie. She says she felt a strange magical reaction. It looks like a harbinger of the second awakening. The professor obviously doesn't believe Leapy. Only an S-rank mage can sense a magical reaction at such a distance. But Leapy asked, what if there really was a second awakening happening there? She wonders if the researcher is ready to take on the responsibility. The woman asked if she was really threatening her now. Leapy says that the signs appeared in Actaeon. When he first woke up, she was right in front of him. Suppression stones are almost completely depleted after the A-class guide. If the suppression stones had been replaced in time, the original Leapy might have survived. If they are normal, Leapy will survive. Since replacement work is already underway, there are enough suppression stones. You just need to give orders to the workers. The researcher asked if Leapy was ready to answer for her words. She said that if nothing happened, they could decide for themselves what to do with her. Initially, her goal was to push the role of guide onto someone else. But when it came down to it, Leapy herself rushed forward. She is no longer afraid of dying, but she does not know what will happen to her brother. To begin with, she will place her bet on Prince Isidore. From now on, she needs to focus. We need to think about what to do before the second awakening begins. Actaeon is distrustful and cautious. He is not used to relying on others easily. And it is unknown what will happen if such a sensitive person experiences a second awakening. There is a high probability that he will feel its signs himself. We need to find Actaeon so that Leapy can take him away immediately. Leapy saw Cassiel, although she thought he would lock himself in the dorm. So far, no magical reaction has been felt. It would be nice if everything ended peacefully. From somewhere, Leapy felt a flow of natural magic, a sharp, aggressive magic, as if the Esper had absorbed it. But for some reason, no one except Leapy notices this. Leapy began to look for Actaeon in the crowd. Cassiel asks her not to interfere, as there are enough measures in place in case of a second awakening. The awakening that is about to begin will reflect Actaeon's state of mind. This is a task that a high-level guide from the Academy can handle. But in the original, Leapy ended up having to cope alone. So Leapy knows that things won't be as Cassiel says. Actaeon himself asked the Sunbae not to approach him. After these words, he falls to the floor, shocking the others. Leapy doesn't understand what the hell is going on. Leapy needs to quickly take Actaeon to the Garden of Oaths. The teachers who were nearby approached first. One of them noticed that Actaeon's awakening was somehow strange. But right now, guiding is important, so they need to hurry. If all goes well, they will be able to reach the garden. Hyacinth noted that Actaeon had been acting strange since the morning. He also thought that he was somehow unusually tense. Leapy shouldn't have fussed, thinking that the situation would get worse. One of the students is going to test whether the restraint bracelet works. Leapy doesn't like them messing around in the hallway. It seems that a crack has appeared on the controlled stone. The restraining bracelet broke. The remaining students need to evacuate immediately. The second awakening began before Actaeon could be carried to the garden. If Leapy gathers her courage, she might not die. Jis stopped her because he was afraid that she would die. For some reason, Leapy suddenly weakened. Cassiel told her straight out that she was going to die. Leapy ended up on the street. Cassiel knocked her out by force. There are only teachers in the square in front of the main garden. For some reason, they invited students, although they are much better at guiding. There is currently a limited number of guides that can be created. They say that the suppression stones in the garden have not yet been completely replaced. Leapy definitely asked to at least scatter them on the floor. Professor Haitian's magic can no longer be felt. She died, unable to withstand the Esper's magic. They don't have a better guide than this professor. The director called the students to try to contain the magic, at least by numbers. In this process, new victims will appear. If Actaeon's power is not stopped, this entire area will be destroyed. At the moment, guiding is the only best way. In the end, everything returned to the starting point. But Leapy can't just stand there and do nothing. Cassiel stopped her and asked what she was going to do. The awakened ones will be allowed in only once. The teachers took them to a separate building. Cassie asked Leapy to stand still. But Leapy knows that in such a situation, House Bronthern might recall the guides. Cassiel says that one teacher has already died, and it is dangerous. Leapy said that she had already guided Actaeon once, but the second awakening is a different level of danger. But Leapy is still better than those who have no experience. She asks him not to act as if she is going to die on purpose. Cassiel will do whatever she says if she returns unharmed. She assures him that she will return safer than anyone else. If Actaeon's guiding were impossible, he would have failed upon first awakening. Last time, Gaiden worked thanks to a certain degree of sympathy between them. This time too, everything should work out. In the worst case, the entire academy could be reduced to ashes. Milia isn't sure if she did the right thing. She's so frivolously sent to certain death, someone she doesn't even know. But this time, everything was definitely different. It was obvious that Leapy was hesitating between choosing herself or Milia. Milia is sure that Leapy suffered from the same impulses as she did. They have one thing in common, that they both know about the worst future. But the difference between them is that it was she who sent Leapy to her death, and not she her. But now, Milia cannot intervene directly. She's worried that they can't really use the Vow Garden. In the end, Milia still sent Leapy to certain death. Gis approached Milia, noticing how much she was shaking. He reassures her that nothing bad will happen. But Milia noticed that he was worried no less than she was. She was a frightening creature to him. But now she sees how Gis is worried about his family. Gis asked her why she was looking like that, and she replied that he looked like someone. If something happens, he will hate Milia very much. The worst thing is to see a person break down. Milia just hopes that no one gets hurt. Before entering, Leapy runs everything through her head. A high school student and a classmate are walking with her. Both had no combat experience, but they had a high understanding of the stabilization process. From the moment you enter, there will be no more support from the outside. Leapy can't believe she's seeing Actaeon's magic. The magic is so thick everywhere that it feels like the skin is cracking. Leapy wanted to go in first, but a senior student stopped her. As soon as she opened the door, it immediately flew to the side. The left arm and leg are bruised, but do not appear to be broken. Leapy asks a classmate to check if she is okay, while she goes to Actaeon. But he said he couldn't and ran away. Leapy understands his feelings, but his actions are too mean. The high school student said that Actaeon attacked as soon as he saw her. He pushes away everyone who tries to get close to him. The pain is severe, but the high school student is not bleeding. Leapy has no choice anymore, so she will have to go in. She will try to work things out, hoping that Actaeon will not push her away. Actaeon pulled half of the Academy's magical power into one place. The professor entered earlier, but failed. The silence makes things more and more unsettling. Leapy finds Actaeon passed out. He is unconscious, but his condition is not yet critical. If she starts guiding now, she will be able to stabilize it. She sees Actaeon's memories again, just like last time. Claire asked him not to trust the guides, and not to let them near her. After all, they still can't cope with a monster like him. Claire apologized for taking Aran from Actaeon, who was closer to him than Cassiel. She asks him not to forget her words, and that they are monsters. Now Leapy understands why Actaeon did this. Because of Claire's words, he thought the same thing would happen to him, but she simply branded him as a monster just like her. Leapy sees that Actaeon has opened his eyes and asks him to pull himself together. Now he has begun magical murder. Leapy needs to return Actaeon to normal. He controls magic unconsciously. Leapy may try to take control of his magic, but soon Actaeon began to respond to her movements. In this state, he will attack until she retreats. Leapy asks him to give her a sign if he can hear her. She can't just leave him and walk away. Grabbing him, Leapy screams at him to come to his senses. But it doesn't help. He still hasn't come to his senses. Leapy will not forgive him if he dares to kill her. If she dies, His will be left alone and will hate Actaeon for the rest of his life. So Lippi asks him to wake up and come to his senses. But even after this, there is no reaction. So there is only one way left, and that is a kiss. Lippi saw Actaeon's memories and feelings again. Something similar happened during the first awakening. His mother met him and asked why he was outside. It looks like she just returned from hunting. Actaeon told her that they needed to hide. Some man said that he was very smart. This man is the Duke of Bronturn. He said that His Highness had given permission, and there would be no more ghosts. He made a deal to transfer Actaeon, a military asset, to his property. There was a bit of friction. They got that woman away from his house. He decided that it would be necessary to hand over Actaeon to him. Actaeon wanted to pounce on him, but the Duke pushed him away. Lippi doesn't understand why Actaeon is showing her this. Eventually, they were captured and imprisoned in the estate. Actaeon had a visiting schedule, even though he wasn't even a criminal. This estate turned out to be truly terrible. No one talks to Actaeon or cares about him. He lives here as if he were already dead. He is ignored as if he were a ghost. After losing his mother, he was left alone. Lippi managed to see another memory. Actaeon met Aaron, who will also live here. Claire asked not to talk to Aaron unless necessary. Although Actaeon kept his distance, he opened his heart. Arenas was the only one who was kind to Actaeon. He treated him well. Lippi doesn't know why he shows her this memory. In this world, monsters always sacrifice guides and take them. Actaeon is afraid that he might kill hides Lippi. Lippi understands his feelings, but she still really wants to save him. That's why she wants him not to push her away. Actaeon's magic gradually begins to calm down. After a few deep breaths, he comes to his senses. Suddenly, Actaeon pulled Lippi towards him and kissed her again. This is no longer guiding, and she can't stand it. Realizing what action was doing, he pushed her away sharply. By this time, people outside must have noticed everything. They should ask them to send a team. Lippi says it wasn't his fault. It was just an accident. Therefore, she asks Actaeon not to blame himself too much. It's strange for Lippi to leave here alive. Maybe it all worked out because their compatibility is great. Lippi hopes that she will gradually figure it out. Lippi Ortiz appears to be an S-class rank. I wish Lippi would be given some rest. She had to undergo rank reassessment all night. I already want to get back to the hostel as soon as possible. The professors are still in awe. Not only is Lippi alive, but her rank has also increased. The rank after the second awakening does not change after it has been determined. Nothing like this was mentioned in the original. The professor wondered if Lippi was in the care of the Bronturn family. Perhaps they have discovered the secret to artificially creating high-ranking awakened beings. Lippi doesn't understand how they can talk this nonsense with such confidence. The children of Bronturn are exposed to the magic of high-ranking awakened from an early age, but this can only be achieved when a person is exposed to it from childhood. Now Lippi has become the main topic of gossip. The professor asked if she had hidden her rank, but everyone knows that she fainted during her first awakening. As soon as she blurted out something, they rushed to discuss it. This is such an incredible event that such an assumption is entirely possible, but Lippi thinks these are too bold an assumption. In any case, they need to deal with the incident. Lippi is curious about what will happen next. All day long, she feels like a monkey in a zoo because of the looks. Lippi told Cassiel that she was tired and wanted to go to bed. Her feelings for him never improved. He has an arrogance that comes from his high rank and status. Their difference in views will become a conflict in the future. She doesn't like that he worries about her and not about his brother. They are only connected as a family because of the Duke. From Lippi's point of view, she couldn't understand Cassiel at all. She thanks him for his concern. He asks her not to die just like that in the future. She may not live in comfort, but at least it will be something. She always reacts so strongly, but there's nothing she can do. News of her awakening must have reached the Duke. Lippi is sure that this man will weave intrigues. She wonders when Actaeon's isolation will end. She is sure that both Actaeon and the Duke will be thinking about what intrigues to weave. If she ends up in the same situation as his mother, nothing good will happen to Actaeon. Because he is uncontrollable, he will be disposed of. Lippi wishes that he would never be unhappy again. The most important thing for her was Hyacinth's well-being. But Actaeon, who catches her eye, worries her. Whether it's compassion or sympathy, she wishes they could be together for a little while. First, Lippi needs to remove this bracelet. It might be possible to create and destroy stone when needed. The length of his isolation will depend on how Actaeon communicates with the director. He said that with the amenities provided, things weren't that bad. The director came in person because he needed to check something. Now they will try to conduct guiding. It seems like he actually came to check it out. The The director asked if Actaeon had imprinted on Lippy as a result of awakening. His actions indicate a refusal to answer the question. Now Actaeon is having a hard time accepting the guiding. Even if they try, they won't be able to stabilize it. But the examination results showed that everything was normal. It seems that it cannot be stabilized for this very reason. Actaeon already maintains an optimal state in all aspects. But this does not prove that there was no imprinting. Soon Actaeon will be called to the office, and if he is lying, it will be revealed. Actaeon thought he would go down the same nightmarish path as Claire. But Lippy saved him. His body remains in a remarkably stable condition. If he doesn't feel that strange magic again, he won't fall into a rage anymore. And if he is next to Lippy, he may not be afraid of becoming a monster. But he can't allow her to be forced into a life of hardship too. Imprinting occurs, although with low probability. But this is what happened this time. However, for those who want to use it as a tool, this is an undesirable event. An Esper imprinted on a specific guide will not be able to receive assistance from other guides. It is obvious what they will do if something like a one-sided impression intervenes. They would start to control it for their own interests. If Actaeon had been discovered right here, Lippy would have had to wander with him across the battlefields. But even if it hadn't imprinted, it wouldn't have mattered. Any guide other than Lippy's wouldn't have meant much to him. She seemed to have a goal of getting out of here. Then Actaeon will act in such a way that she achieves this. Lippy will always be able to bring him back to normal. Therefore, he will forever hide the imprint. Asking her to stay by my side just for that reason would be violence. As soon as he made such a decision, they immediately met. They came to a place where almost no one goes. Lippy asked Actaeon how he was feeling. She noticed that he was embarrassed and stammering. After all, just a few days ago they were kissing. Action's isolation is over. On the day of the inauguration ceremony, someone deliberately disrupted Actaeon's second awakening in order to kill him. But Actaeon thinks he knows who it was. And he doesn't think he'll do the same thing again. If you put aside your preconceptions, it all comes down to one person. At first glance, the Bronthern family is part of the Crown Prince's faction. But the Crown Prince is uncomfortable having House Bronthern in his faction. Now Actaeon's actions in the novel make sense. It was his revenge for his mother and for himself. In the original, Crown Prince Sibelian was the one who started the war. He used the Crystal War to rally his supporters. The reason Actaeon went mad was to prove the danger of the Espers. The Crown Prince wanted to take control of Actaeon. He used Hyacinth at his own discretion, despite the fact that he supported Actaeon and helped him become the leader. He was eventually killed by Actaeon, who had seen right through the Crown Prince. But the faction he created did not disintegrate so easily. Prince Isidore, the Crown Prince's adversary, has disappeared. The aristocrats gradually took power into their own hands. The main characters found love and became happy. But this ending brings suffering to those around them. This is all just superficial information. Those who sent his mother to hell and made her suffer, Bronteorn and the Crown Prince, were the target of his revenge. Lippy wonders if Actaeon feels the same way now. He asked her if she was interested in why he thought so. When she first woke up, she felt a connection with his emotions. But this time, she didn't just feel them, she saw them. Actaeon planned to keep this a secret. It's not very nice when someone digs into your past. But Actaeon didn't mind, because it was Lippy. If people see them together, everything will become more complicated. Lippy noticed Milia, who somehow ended up here. Sometimes she wants to be alone, and she comes here. But Lippy asks her not to leave because she wants to say something. She asked Milia if she was curious how she knew her name. Judging by her reaction, she realized she had missed it. It was as if she had been caught taking Lippy's knowledge for granted. Right now, the most suspicious person is Milia. She knew there was something wrong with the controlled stones, so she knew something could happen. Millie didn't want to lie to her, but it was hard to explain everything now. Lippy thanked her for telling her this. Millie is sure she has a lot of questions. Now she promises that she will help Lippy. Lippy didn't have time to say anything, and Milia left. Apparently, Milia thought that Lippy was alone, so she said this. But she herself told them to hide if people noticed them together. Actaeon was going to listen to her, but they were prevented from being together. He asks Lippy to do him a small favor. Lippy was called by the professor, and Actaeon decided to accompany her. He told her that they had to go to the capital because the Crown Prince had ordered them to come. Lippy and Actaeon returned to the place she no longer wanted to see. Lippy didn't want to come, but here she is again. Before that, she was able to meet and talk with Cassiel. Duke Bronthern ordered Lippy to come to the estate. The Crown Prince must have called her to him to win her over. He won't be able to get to Hyacinth right away, but that doesn't mean he's safe. If the Crown Prince finds a way, he will have it. Lippi wondered if it was possible to annoy both the Crown Prince and the Duke at the same time. Supplies also pass through the station they are at. They need to leave quickly before they run into the soldiers. They were supposed to be expected, but so far it seems there is no one. Actaeon guesses that there may be two of them. His Highness turned out to be a very curious man. Lippi asked him if he enjoyed making a fuss. They will simply show the reaction of well-trained soldiers to a specific situation. If Lippi's boss is a thorn, she's ready to pay him back in the same coin. As soon as they took a step, the soldiers began to follow them. Actaeon wears a bracelet with enhanced control. They will soon find out what a guide using Nexium is capable of. Lippi started to run away, and the soldier rushed after her. Having outwitted him, Lippi knocked him to the ground. She asks him to be quiet, knowing that he is a spy. Lippi thought that Xenobart had sent them here, but she knows that they were definitely sent by the Crown Prince. If she uses mana, the signal will be sent to the guards immediately. If she stalls for time, she can turn these guys in. At that moment, a bullet almost flew into Lippi. She needs to calm down. It was just a warning shot. The one who shot wanted to take control of Actaeon, so Lippi must catch the one she missed. Actaeon helps Lippi to avoid being hit by bullets. In the end, together, they managed to deal with the spies. Actaeon was very scared that they almost hit Lippi. Lippi only needed to lure the observers. She didn't want Actaeon to use magic because of her. His mana flow became even more unstable. She asks him to stop using magic because he is already on fire. But they were already surrounded by the administration. Lippi suggests that he provide first aid for now. The observer who shot at them didn't even know their ranks. He didn't aim for vital spots, but he pulled the trigger. They were ordered to catch them. Lippi isn't sure if this can be called a human act. The guards didn't like that Actaeon was here too. Actaeon remembers that they came when he lost consciousness during his first awakening. This is the same guy who showed up when Lippi was giving a report about the Count's house. He gives them time to explain what happened. Lippi spoke about spies who were acting suspiciously. A spy from an enemy country approached Actaeon. In other words, they just gave them a fair shake. They will find out the details at the administration office. This is the third time, so it will not be easy for Lippi to free herself. Lippi asks Actaeon to trust her. They left the luggage at the station, beat up the criminals, and called Isidore. Lippi is sorry that she did not live up to his expectations. They knew this would happen, so they contacted him in advance. Isidore tells Actaeon that he is supposed to stop Lippi when she plans something like this. He said that Isidore himself had put her in an awkward position by calling her mistress, but it was a joke to get rid of the brother servants. Actaeon declared that Lippi was not one to act rashly. Isidore felt like he had two naughty children on his hands. He asks them not to forget who pulled them out and personally saw them off. He doesn't seem to realize that the problem is in his words. People's protests are becoming more serious every day. The Awakened became the main fighting force. Because of them, many innocent people die. Besides, Lippi can't avoid it either. There were more of them, and it seemed that Isidore had gotten used to it. He drives this road often, and for him, this is a common sight. He knows they have a lot of questions, but he can't give an answer right now. Last time, the relationship between Isidore and Actaeon was not so bad. Actaeon seems uncomfortable around him. Lippi has no idea what he is asking them to understand. Perhaps the problem people are raising really does deserve attention. If the prince continues to behave so secretively, it will be difficult for them to explain themselves. Instead of building a trusting relationship, he makes you doubt him. It's worth digging into his past, even though it will be difficult. Now Lippi needs to deal with the crown prince. Emperor Valager once had to cultivate barren soil. He made the phoenix, which rises even after death, a symbol of pride. That is why they attach great importance to the restoration of buildings. But now they are the same ones who spend citizens' taxes. Isidore led them to their destination. Since he owed them something, it was only fair. Isidore whispered something in Actaeon's ear. It seems like he deliberately made them doubt him. It's all because his expectations are very high. But Actaeon was not born to become the nation's faithful dog. Frankly, this scares Isidora. Soon his faithful assistant came for him. Actaeon is not one to openly show hostility. He can barely feel the mana around him, because some of it has already been extracted. Lippi said that if you don't tie your tie too tight, it will be easier. It will be better for Actaeon if she ties it every day. Lippi doesn't like that he's trying to turn her into a servant. His Highness the Crown Prince is already waiting for them. They came to His Highness Sibelian Reed Latern. Being a corrupt ruler suits him better. He thanks them for coming and asks them to stand up. He was worried that the road would tire them out, but Lippi says the meeting itself is already a great honor for them. It's great that she understands his intentions. He remembers that the Lippy relative is under the protection of House Bronthern. Now Lippy's rank, her surroundings and status have changed. This means that Sibelian must become her patron. But compared to those around him, Lippy was completely inept. Atkins said there was no better experience to describe it. This only increases the prince's curiosity. He wants them to show him their strength here and now. To satisfy his curiosity, he turned them into entertainment for aristocrats. With such a small amount of mana, it is more difficult to control the power. The prince is curious about what this Esper is doing. He was glad that besides the Duke, another S-class had appeared. At this rate, he will soon not be able to bear it and will die. Apparently, family education is to blame for this. Lippy feels like she's causing minor trouble. If Lippy's assumptions are correct, then Actaeon is doing this on purpose. Actaeon is afraid that he might disappoint His Highness. The prince believes he made a wise choice. He believes that Actaeon's strength is weaker than the report said, but this is enough to send him to the active battlefield. Perhaps the air here makes it difficult for Actaeon to control his strength. Eventually, his power got out of control. If Actaeon was going to pretend, he could have at least inflicted one scratch on Lippy. Now that the control bracelet is removed, Actaeon is calm. It doesn't matter that there's little mana here, because Actaeon was able to cause chaos. His Majesty orders the cadet to be stopped. As soon as Lippy touched him, he immediately calmed down. Stabilizing him turned out to be more difficult than she thought. Lippy asks the prince to reconsider their sponsorship. To stop Actaeon's rampage, Organ had to risk his life. They were dragged back into the forest for interrogation. After a whole day of interrogation, the inspectors looked tired. Apart from that, there was nothing remarkable. They were released 3 days later. Lippy thought Actaeon was even worse, but he is fine. The Crown Prince's pride is incredibly strong. The recognition of the incident as an accident proves this. If the world finds out that an ordinary awakened one has defeated him, his reputation will be tarnished. But such a petty person will not leave all this just like that, especially after their appalling refusal of his patronage. As a result, Actaeon found himself embroiled in trouble. But they had long since crossed the line that would have caused him to distance himself from Lippy. He wonders if she is really worried about him, but it is not for her to say such things when Actaeon never listens. He is pleased to know that people are worried about him. Thinking that this could be overlooked, Actaeon decided to do it. He tells her that she will soon find out about his father. The Duke will certainly keep a close eye on Lippy. After all, this is his chance to strengthen the family's power. But most likely he will ignore Lippy. They will know when they come face to face with it. Suddenly, the Duke asked Lippy what she thought about the engagement. This was clearly not the question she was expecting. It seems so easy to resist the Crown Prince. Lippy now understands why the Crown Prince's connection to House Bronthern was fragile from the start. This house has housed a large number of high-ranking people. They sent not only relatives, but also their children to the battlefield. The Crown Prince fears that the Duke's power will grow too large. But the Crown Prince keeps the Brontherns close to prevent their power from outgrowing his own. And in the midst of all this, the awakened S-Class refused the patronage of the Crown Prince. And this guide is also related to Bronthern. Apparently, the problems Lippy caused became a gift for the Duke. He threw a banquet in her honor, even after what she had done. But Lippy needs to focus. The Duke and his faction enjoy the prince's trust. He is the only awakened strong enough to fight the Euskal Empire. He is the only one who is capable of confronting S-Class Espers on equal terms. A man who has wealth and fame but desires more cannot be an ordinary man. From now on, Lippy needs to be more careful. She told Actaeon that she had shown him her shameful side. But Actaeon also showed her the worst that was in him. His words sound rather strange to Lippy. If Actaeon ever agrees to an engagement, he wants it to be his choice. The Duke noted that Lippy did not appear displeased. Although she is treated well now, there were no precedents for this before. Even the slightest grain of doubt could cause the Duke to hesitate, and there is no evidence that a third awakening is even possible. The Duke likes reasonable and objective people. He suggests that she set a deadline before her release. By that time, they should learn more about the third awakening. He said that Lippy could choose either Actaeon or Cassiel. Lippy doesn't understand why he puts so much pressure on her. Although, the Duke thinks that Actaeon will be better. Actaeon said that everything depended on her heart. Stay close to a man long enough, and he will give in like Zion. Her Majesty often has attacks. She should eat properly and rest. But the head maid is always by her side. Both the Crown Prince and the Duke were cut from the same cloth. And not a single mention of a patron from the Crown Prince. The most important thing is to control the power of the Crown Prince. Suddenly, Lipi was stopped by a maid, asking for a minute. She gives her something and asks her to keep it a secret. She whispers that this must definitely remain a secret. It turned out to be a letter from the Duchess, asking her to come to her at midnight. If she calls her in the middle of the night, it means the conversation could be dangerous. Almost always, the third floor has the fewest servants. As expected, it's the same with Brontern. The room Lipi came into was darker. She felt a smell that was too sharp and specific. "This is the scent of neroli. Beld gave it to me, saying that it was calming." The Duchess met Lipi and invited her to sit down. She apologizes for having to summon her secretly, but Lipi is interested in her health. The Duchess said that her husband never sent her a single person. She says that the Duke will definitely try to force Lipi to enter his house. This means that it is better for her not to join this family. This house is like a swamp from which there is no way to escape. The girl who could have become her daughter's friend died. And even Cassiel is gradually becoming like his father. The Duchess saw that he had changed a little. He hated Lipi, but it was she who influenced his changes. And she influenced not only him, but also Actaeon. Moreover, Brontern will soon fall. Lipi thanks her for making it clear that they are in the same boat. Because of Lipi, a rift began between Brontern and the Crown Prince. Lipi didn't want this, but there is already a split. From that moment on, Lipi became the wick that would drive them apart. Lipi asked if she shouldn't get something in return. The Duchess promises to do everything in her power. She offered a false name or deportation to another country. There is a person whom Lipi must protect no matter what. Therefore, the protection of Hyacinth must be above all else. The Duchess promises that their family will be protected under any circumstances. She thanks Lipi for coming. The maid warned that there was no one here at that hour. The guard's route has changed, so Lipi won't meet anyone. But, to the girl's surprise, she noticed someone. She suddenly smelled the smell that was in the Duchess's room. So that man must be Beld. But the question arises, where is he returning from at such an hour? Keeping track of Beld after all this was too much. Since Lipi has decided to side with the Duchess, she needs to be careful. Beld is experienced enough to prescribe most medications. This means that he can easily get acquainted with the internal structure of the Brontern house. At best, Beld is actually on their side. And at worst, he will find out everything and report them to the Duke. If Lipi had known what kind of person he was before, it wouldn't have been so difficult. Before returning to the Lipi Academy, it's worth keeping an eye on him. Suddenly, the headmaid came into her room. She dressed her up for the occasion of tea with the Duchess. Lipi can directly ask if Beld is their ally. She was surprised to see that Actaeon was also here. Mother wanted to know what Lipi liked. Actaeon told her that Lipi preferred light food. She also likes desserts with lemon and herb flavors. It's nice, but at the same time it scares Lipi a little. The Duchess told Actaeon that she had invited Lipi to her place. Actaeon asked if he needed to hide it from her any longer. To protect Lipi, it would be better if she knew. Actaeon himself was going to tell her soon. Lipi feels very uncomfortable. Beld arrived unexpectedly and wanted to entrust something to Lipi. Since she's leaving in the morning, he has to give it to her now. Beld gives Lipi what needs to be delivered to the young master. This is the sedative that Beld gave me before leaving for the academy, but it could have run out. Beld heard that she and the young master had caused quite a stir. Lipi said it wasn't the most pleasant event, but Beld said that he and the Duchess found it quite pleasant. Given the Duchess's reaction, Beld is clearly somehow connected to her, but he is too slippery to be his ally. After this, Beld leaves, wishing them to enjoy their tea. That night, Lipi decided to follow Beld. She'd better be sure than in doubt. At that moment, someone suddenly grabs her hand. When Lipi knocks him to the ground, it turns out to be Actaeon. Lipi asks him what he's wearing at school. Actaeon just wanted to take a walk, and he put on a mask because he wanted to disguise himself. It's important to hide your face, but you shouldn't do it too obviously. Actaeon noticed that Lipi really understood this. She used to be involved in pickpocketing and fraud. It was a long time ago, and she doesn't do it now. Sometimes Actaeon wonders how she can act so calmly. When they met the Crown Prince, Actaeon was furious, but his anger will only prove that the awakened are dangerous. This thought helped him to contain his rage. Lipi feels the same as Actaeon. She believes that nothing remains the same forever. So Lipi decided to prepare for that time. Miracles happened that Actaeon did not believe in. Lipi asks him to leave everything as it is, and then she asked who Actaeon was following. Mother said that lately Beld has been going somewhere a lot. Actaeon doesn't know how Beld was hired. The father introduced him and brought him into the house. But still the Duchess trusts Beld. This is a man who has studied all habits and natures. There must be another reason why Beld is at the estate. Beld stopped at a door where there was no sign. This must be an illegal workshop. They buy up the weapons that the soldiers failed to capture and sell them. Actaeon actually smelled herbs and gunpowder. The voice Lippy heard seemed familiar to her. It turned out that Prince Isidore was waiting inside Beld. Beld told him that he often calls him. The security at Brontern House should be light at this time. Beld says that it is all because of Actaeon's presence. And he doesn't look pleased with the fact that Actaeon has awakened, but he knew it would happen. Isidore realizes that Actaeon has not lost control, but there is too little evidence that Isidore wanted him to lose control. Hearing rustling sounds, Isidore abruptly opened the window. Beld also felt someone's presence. Police have been cracking down on protesters recently. Leapy's heartbeat quickened due to the unexpected closeness with Actaeon. He apologized for being too hasty, but he had no choice but to hide. But, for some reason, Actaeon avoids eye contact with her. Leapy asks him to stop avoiding her. Actaeon knows that she treats him softly. Isidore says that they need to prepare, as Modine will soon be called up to the army. He said that his brother would abandon them all on the battlefield. Beld noted that he sounds like a typical villain, but until the virus is detected, it cannot be stopped. Count Lorraine was convicted of abusing the Awakened. It is a blessing that this matter has fallen into the hands of the Crown Prince. Count Lorraine, who wanted to side with Brontern, was exposed by Leapy. He was eliminated, his place was taken by the Crown Prince, and Prince Isidore knew about his plans. He used Leapy's actions as an intervention. Beld asked Isidore if he liked Leapy. He feels like he has a naughty little sister. Beld is glad that these are not romantic feelings. They should continue to monitor her actions. Something inside snapped. Leapy can no longer hear the sound. Actaeon lies to her that there was nothing important there, but he looks too serious. His face seemed to be distorted with fear. Eventually, they returned to the academy. Leapy never found out what exactly Beld did. He stopped her early in the morning and even sent a maid to bring the supposedly missing item. At that moment, the maid looked at her coldly. It seems as if Beld did this on purpose. But when Actaeon arrived, Beld immediately showed how uncomfortable he was. Leapy feels like she's missed something important. She can't help but worry that Beld is left alone with the Duchess. And she never found out what Actaeon had hidden from her last night. Actaeon noticed her condition, but she said that she had not slept well at night. She needs to report to the professor. After she caused such a big incident, she will definitely be scolded. At least she came back safe and sound. Leapy asked if she would be scolded. It doesn't make sense, but the professor is still disappointed. There is no use stopping someone who is looking for trouble. Still, Leapy should try to be more careful. Leapy feels like the professor is worried about her. Previously, she sent countless numbers of cadets to the front. Leapy met Hyacinth, who was also going to the professor. He noticed her bad mood, but now she's fine. Leapy needs to deliver the medicine to Cassiel. She asks Hyacinth to check the men's dormitory, but it will be difficult to contact Cassiel for some time. It turns out that he is now being punished. They say he challenged a history professor, and in that class, Cassiel openly spoke out against the war. Leapy has no doubt that Cassiel is in the place she came to. Cassiel's punishment was to write reports. Until the reports are completed, the punished person will be locked in the library. But he who seeks a way will always find one. But something told Leapy that he shouldn't interfere. She'd better take care of herself before thinking about others. Leapy needs to get some medicine to Cassiel, so she has to meet him. She hopes that Hyacinth won't turn a blind eye to this either. Leapy thought she should sneak inside through the open window. But Cassiel, who saw her, asked what the hell she was doing. Not everyone can just walk into the additional building. Leapy is interested in how the rewriting of the reports is progressing, but Cassiel didn't do them, because they would have to release him anyway. He is not one of those who will control his anger so calmly. Finally, Leapy gives him the medicine from Beld. Cassiel can't believe Leapy climbed the wall for this. But she also wants to know how to remove the bracelet before being deployed to Romdina. Leapy needs Cassiel's help to survive. He is surprised that she asks him for help. Leapy forgot that dislocation could be a trigger for him. Cassiel thinks it's all because of the Crown Prince. It would have been better if he had remained an ignorant fool. Leapy explains that they are simply intimidating them. Claire was called there too, and then she died. That's why Cassiel can't trust Leapy. But if Leapy wanted to die, she wouldn't ask for help. Leapy will still be haunted for the rest of her life, and those who help her will live the rest of their lives under surveillance and intervention. The political situation in Valjer is unstable, and public opinion is divided. Leapy just wants to live until that time and change everything. To do this, she needs to get rid of the controlling stone. At least this way she can avoid danger. Once Cassiel is freed, he will hand over the control stones he has collected to Leapy. He asks Leapy to keep her promise that she will not die. And Leapy promises him that she will keep him. A crowd of people are looking at Actaeon and Lippy, but she asks them to ignore it. Cadets are called up to the army. It is part of their life. Actaeon asked if Leapy had made peace with Hyacinth. She left him a note, so everything should be fine. 2 days ago, the professor mentioned Leapy's name during class. Then Hyacinth found out about everything and was angry. Since that day, he has been avoiding Leapy, and she knows that she shouldn't have hidden anything from him. But he would have insisted that he, not Leapy, be sent to the battlefield. Actaeon is confident that they will make peace, but for now, Leapy needs to think about herself. Actaeon himself will be fine, since Lippy is always looking after him. Suddenly, someone recognized them as the newcomers everyone was talking about. The road to Modena was difficult from the very beginning. At first, the commander was calm, but then he began to boast about Leapy and Actaeon. He kept repeating the same phrase. Halfway there, the rails were destroyed, forcing us to walk. For several days, they filled their stomachs with dry rations. Even Actaeon looks terrible now. The commander said that great hopes were placed on the two of them. Only now will they all be able to get a good night's sleep. Leapy will definitely cut Sibylin's throat one day. The cadets barely made it, almost died. The tents of the awakened are located separately from the regular soldiers. The cadets were not happy that someone else had arrived. They asked Mitchell to show the kids what it was all about. She was surprised at how young they looked. She didn't expect Actaeon Bronturn to be here. They are a special operations unit made up entirely of awakened. They have a sleeping bag which Mitchell asks them to bring. Nothing will happen tonight, so they can settle in. Leapy didn't expect them to sleep after the war. When they wake up, someone will bring them up to speed. Leapy knew that discipline was bad in the army, but she didn't think it was that bad. Leapy doesn't understand how things have gotten so hopeless. At night, when Leapy had already fallen asleep, Actaeon woke her up. All the cadets were woken up because something happened. Actaeon feels the mana flowing, as if someone was using it. Now they need to move with all the soldiers. When Leapy came out, she was surprised that it was so quiet. One of the cadets asked Leapy not to stand still and to follow her. Leapy is confused that they are the only ones participating in the night raid. Mana is drawn into one place and then split into hundreds of strands. This means that the awakened one manipulated her. They faced the power of the Yuskal Empire. There is only one awakened in Yuskal that can dispel mana. He is a necromancer. His mana can control the dead. He uses everything from soldiers to animals. Therefore, we must not let our guard down. It seems that all called cadets have to go through this. They found themselves in a situation where no one would come to their aid. Mitchell asks everyone to gather to remove the monitoring bracelets. They can't lose the bracelet, so they need to hide it in a safe place. Leapy can't believe they're starting a fight without a single order. They need to get ready because the monsters are already here. They arrived faster than Leapy expected. They and Actaeon were able to help each other. The squad members do not use magic very actively. Ordinary soldiers do not fight, and awakened ones try not to use magic. After all, the point of this is for the awakened to fight with magic. The situation is very contradictory. Ordinary soldiers stopped participating in wars because of the abilities of the awakened. It all depends on which defeated one is sent to the battlefield. The situation had escalated to such an extent that the course of the battle could have changed dramatically. The reality is that awakened ones try not to use magic. There must be something worse than their situation. First, they need to somehow end the fight. Actaeon began to actively defend Lippy. The others thought it was crazy and he was a monster. Actaeon said that he would finish this fight himself. The other side is also in shock. They stopped using magic. Someone suggested that there was a similar one in the Bronturn family with such abilities, but he was asked to watch his words. This is a new S-class from Broturn, so they should stop gossiping. They were worried if he was okay after that. Actaeon reports that no more enemies have been detected. He asks to tell him what he did wrong, and he wonders why they are looking at him so strangely. Mitlek asks not to pay attention to this. Everyone needs to prepare to return to the barracks. There must be a reason why they use magic with caution. After that battle, skirmishes continued to break out for several days. After the first day, the necromancer did not appear again, but they launched many small attacks. Actaeon dealt with them perfectly thanks to his abilities. After that, they seemed to realize the level of his power and became quiet. Mitchell asked Actaeon to use too much magic. This isn't the main battle, so he needs to conserve his strength. They began to treat him like the youngest. After all, Actaeon is the youngest here. It's only natural that everyone in the group treats him this way. He assures that he didn't overuse his mana, so everything is fine. He also asks to stop petting him because it is exhausting. The cadets feel like he's saving face in front of someone else, but they still decided to stop. One of them told Actaeon that she couldn't just steal his eldest, but he says that if it is her choice, then he will respect it. And she asked what he would do if she completely captured Leapy. Leapy says that he listens well if you tell him to. The cadet already knows that he won't listen to her anyway. They ask Mitchell to grab some supplies when he returns. The guy was gloomy, so the cadets were glad that the newcomers joined them. After a fight, this is not the place for laughter and joy. They lost one of the elders, Eneli. The sleeping bag Lippy uses belonged to her. Eneli was left with only one uncle, and her life was not a bed of roses. They must have brought this up for a reason. Actaeon decides to ask why they avoid using mana. He noticed it on the first day. There is some risk that exceeds magic. Eneli died not long ago. Sooner or later, the newbies will find out everything anyway, so it's worth telling them. They don't really use mana, only as a last resort. Whether they like it or not, sooner or later, they will understand it themselves. They had a little fun for once, but now they've scared them. Leapy thinks it's time for them to go to bed. Actaeon is asked to find the remaining members of the squad. Leapy is also asked to join him. Leapy noticed that Actaeon really didn't want to go. Suddenly, the cadet asked her if she liked Actaeon. She asks him not to fall in love too much, because then Actaeon will hurt her. Mitchell asked the newcomers who they had offended to be there. They say they were sent by order of the Crown Prince. But Mitchell is indignant about what they did that they are now suffering so much. They received orders to retake Mervale. Now it's clear why the Crown Prince sent the awakened S-Class here. Currently, Euskala has fewer awakened people located in this region. The Necromancer controls a huge number of corpses. But for a man like Actaeon, destroying the Necromancer will not be a problem. But this means that he plans to unlock Actaeon's hidden power. The Crown Prince wants to show off his power. Judging by the behavior of the elders, there must be danger hidden here. Leapy can stabilize Actaeon just in case. She asks him to tell her right away if he feels he needs to be stabilized. Actaeon asked if she would do it for him again. He seems to remember what happened during the Second Awakening. It was as if Actaeon had decided to make a joke in this situation. But Leapy realized that Actaeon trusted her completely. His trust is striking in its depth. Cadet Bansi's advice came too late. The operation to return Mervale was successful. During the 3-day battle, Actaeon fought with unwavering concentration. As a result, he forced the main forces of Euskal to retreat to the rear. After he dealt a critical blow to the Necromancer, they were able to complete the operation. This could all have taken much longer, but at least now Leapy can rest. She doesn't believe that she can be more tired than Actaeon. It will take time to set up camp. Actaeon should sleep. Actaeon is not tired, but he needs Leapy's guiding. The right to control the control bracelets belongs to Mitchell. So when he comes back, you need to ask him to take it off. But when Mitchell returned, he asked them to come with him for a while. He could be mistaken that Leapy and Actaeon had turned against the Crown Prince. Mitchell thinks they're crazy. The order to remove the monitoring bracelets has just been received. They seem to be against Actaeon's magical stabilization. No one other than Leapy or someone like Mitchell can stabilize Actaeon. And without stabilization, using magic is dangerous. They told Mitchell to do the guiding, but his forces would be limited. It's no different from throwing a piece of bread to a dying person. That's why they were so reluctant to use magic. In situations where it was impossible to obtain a guide, they did not waste magic. This means that for now, Actaeon will have to remain in this state without stabilization. From now on, he needs to stay in the rear. It would be bad if his mana balance was disrupted in this state. Actaeon will understand everything when he experiences it on his own skin. It's not recklessness. Actaeon said it because it means he can handle it. He really acts like he's asking me to take responsibility. But Actaeon is sure that he cannot do without Leapy. Because of her actions, he had to endure this humiliation. Therefore, she will risk her life to repay Actaeon. Just in case, she prepared for any developments. It's time for Actaeon to stop thinking he can handle this alone. Leapy broke the bracelet, and she learned how to do this from Cassiel. If there is a strong flow of mana, the control bracelet will stop working. The only drawback was that the bracelet would activate with the slightest use of mana. But there is one type of mana that the bracelet does not control. This is the mana of the magic stone, the cause of the last war. Control cores do not contain mana, but react to external flows of mana. All cores are divided into the original core and its copies. Control bracelets are made in similar ways. The bracelet suppresses mana and sends it to the original stone. It may seem that the control cores can detect any poison. There was an accident where the mana inside mutated and caused an explosion. If the bracelet could detect the mutated mana, the accident would have been prevented. Lippi and Cassiel stumbled upon this case while looking for a loophole. After several tests, they succeeded. Magic stones are not issued to civilians. Then Milia appeared. As if she knew this would happen, she saw her brother's face in Actaeon when she said she could not tell. Lippi insists that she obtained it legally. She took Actaeon's hand and kissed his wrist. She enjoys surprising Actaeon in any way she can. After building barracks in Merveille, they stopped there. And then the elders filled Actaeon with meat. They said he needed to maintain his strength. Actaeon assures that he works on his body every evening. New supplies have just arrived. His Highness sent someone. Actaeon is upset that he can't get guidance whenever he wants. Due to the free time, Lippi feels like a complete bruise. She thought that Actaeon had been in the barracks for a long time. Suddenly, he appeared from behind and said that he noticed someone suspicious. The man sent by the Crown Prince does not wish to place himself above Actaeon. If Actaeon were in his place, he would try to check if he was feeling better. This man has done nothing at all. He is well versed in military routine. As the eldest son, there was no point in him joining the army. This guy headed towards the beast territory, not the barracks. Lippi hoped he was just taking a stroll. She ordered Actaeon to capture this guy. Actaeon threatened that it would hurt if he resisted. As it turned out, this man was Prince Isidore. Lippi asked what brought him here. Isidore asked if they were doing well. Cohen said that they had already captured His Highness and were threatening Isidore. Lippi wondered what Isidore wanted to do behind the Crown Prince's back. For some reason, he seemed to want to use Lippi and Actaeon. Isidore asked Lippi what future she wanted to change. Lippi already thought that he, too, had been reborn. Actaeon clarified that he needed to explain himself before asking anything. Isidore does not recognize Actaeon at all. He stated that someone must one day turn this world upside down. Isidore says it will be Milia Ernst. Then, Hyacinth asked her if it was true that she could go back in time. In that case, he asked to save his sister. Once Milia made a promise, she must keep it. This concerns everyone, so they will have to listen to Isidore. He met Milia a year ago in the place where she was hiding. She seemed fragile on the outside, but there was calmness inside her. Then, Isidore asked her to repeat what she had said. Milia introduced herself to him again, but he asked her to say something else. With the help of His Highness Beld, Milia returned to the past. At that moment, she looked like a crazy person. It was Beld who brought the Milia to them, a colleague from a secret anti-war group. Lippi felt that Beld was acting against the imperial family. Isidore's will coincides with the will of the imperial family. Beld, who trusts practically no one, brought her himself. Milia didn't show the slightest confusion. Then she and Isidore talked. What she told shocked him. After the war, most of the people died from the awakened. To save the world, they have no choice but to go back. Each of them made a sacrifice. They barely managed to turn back time. Trees of life initially stabilize and circulate natural mana. Due to the war, their numbers in the Great Forest rapidly decreased. Yggdrasil forced people to take control of mana. Among the protesters, Isidore heard such words. Yggdrasil handed over control of life forces to people. He is the source that creates stones, and people are drawn to him. He wants to destroy those who lead the world to destruction. Isidore asked how they were supposed to check all this. Milia needed to find Yggdrasil to prove she had returned in time. At first, Isidore didn't believe her, but Beld confirmed that it was real. Because Beld is the very tree of life. It would be easier to believe that Beld is hiding the fact that he is awakened. But Beld asked what would have happened if Isidore had not believed him. To protect the forest, Beld must stop this war. Just in case, Isidore asked Milia if she was human. He is the prince of the very race that took upon itself all this destruction. Regardless of the circumstances, the job needs to be done. It seems Milia came to them because she thought it was possible to change the future. She stated that there is something that carries the mana of Yggdrasil within itself. Only this man can stop Yggdrasil. Someone arranged this in a future that has already passed. This is not Milia, but someone much more capable. Everything went wrong the moment she died. Milia said that this person is Lippi. It's hard to believe, but impossible not to believe. This explains all of Isidore's actions so far. He made Lippi doubt herself, but in the end, everything worked out in her favor. The moment she learned about the future, she had to change it in order to survive. Isidore said that he was indebted to Lippi. Lippi preserved the memory of the future and became an invaluable support. This caused a rift between his brother and Brontern. This means that they all owe their lives to Cadet Lippi. But she was not so naive and asked what they wanted from her. Isidore asks Lippi to join him. Otherwise, even after the war ends, the world will again plunge into madness. No one can compete with the power of the World Tree. Leapy gained the ability to stabilize thanks to Millie and the future, but Leapy doesn't even know what causes the mana imbalance. That's why Isidore tells her about it before it's too late. It turns out that Leapy died before the time travel happened. Actaeon asks why she died then. Isidore believes that Leapy herself should tell him. There are things that Isidore could not know if his words were not true. However, what they do have is that Leapy changed the future. Actaeon asks if Odd was one of the things Leapy changed. Then the current one was created by Leapy. Actaeon hopes that Leapy will not allow them to control her. And what she doesn't want, let her leave alone as she wishes. Actaeon will make sure that no one disturbs Leapy. But Leapy asked Isidore if he really thought she would join him. Isidore knows that right now, Leapy is holding back from punching him in the face. He would also be furious if he found out that his achievements were due to someone else's plan. Isidore really has nothing to say about this. He bowed and said he was sorry. If Leapy joins him, he will get the people he values. If Leapy prevents the magical imbalance, she herself will be able to protect people. But Isidore can protect them until the war ends. He is able to prevent a repeat of what they experienced. He asks not to delay the answer, because the sooner the better. Leapy doesn't know about the future in which she wasn't. Isidore said that the magical imbalance has already begun. Actaeon and Leapy must decide before it's too late. It's going to rain soon. Isidore decides to return first. He looks at Leapy as if she is threatening him with something. It was still the right choice not to talk about that part. It is unknown what will happen if he finds out that with his own hands, he killed the one he cherishes so much. Now, Leapy understood why Isidore had said it had to be her. The more he tries to avoid death, the more it causes Actaeon's life to stray from its original path. The mere fact that she was alive turned the lives of others upside down. Leapy just wants to live, but it's hard to bear the burden of others' lives. Actaeon will always be there. He doesn't want her to bear all this alone. The rain intensified. He suggested going back. Bansi didn't expect them to return so late. She asked them to hurry up and get ready for bed. Mitchell asked if they really hadn't noticed that lights out had started a long time ago. But they don't all go to bed on time. Talking late at night gives him a headache. Mitchell has become more irritable lately. Lately, he has been holding his head a lot. When you have a headache, you really react sharply to everything. It's hard to get the medications you need in this place. It's late today, so Leapy will talk to Mitchell tomorrow. But suddenly, someone will be there at night. Bansi asked if Leapy had seen Mitchell. It turns out that he has been nowhere to be seen for the last 2 hours. Bansi walked through the entire headquarters, but Mitchell was nowhere to be seen. The only thing he said was that his headaches had gotten worse. It all looks like he escaped. He is not the type to create problems and disappear because of a misunderstanding. Mitchell has been looking agitated lately. He didn't even take with him the pendant he never took off. Inside the pendant was a photograph of Professor Hessian. They are very similar, and now Leapy understands everything. She immediately told Actaeon that he was not guilty of anything. They have to explain everything to the younger ones. It can't be ignored anymore. But Mitchell couldn't leave, because he was afraid that they would be dragged into it too. Mitchell is not one to abandon his squad without a fight, and he is not one of those who can go berserk. Bansi is asked to calm down, because she is scaring the younger children. Leapy doesn't understand why they react this way. At some point, awakened ones who had lost control began to come from Euskala. It seemed like it wasn't on purpose, but they couldn't do anything about it. But then something similar started happening to them too. Mitchell was the one in charge of guiding the awakened. Leapy asks what they should do when they find Mitchell. They will have to stabilize his mana. Leapy didn't think that Prince Isidore's words would manifest themselves like this. Actaeon and Leapy must be the ones to find him. Mitchell had to find out that Actaeon killed the entire family. He didn't show it in any way and continued to keep an eye on Actaeon. Like Claire said, they are monsters. They are doomed to make their guides miserable. Actaeon felt the necromancer use his mana. Leapy had only felt Mitchell's mana, and now this. The necromancer from Euskala is heading here. It looks like he wants to get rid of the guide that is left alone. Only Mitchell has the authority to unlock the bracelets. Bansi wants Leapy and Actaeon to go to headquarters. It turns out that she wants to go fight. Bansi already feels like she's starting to go crazy. Something has awakened in her that she doesn't even need. They are young. They have a lot of things they want to do. Leapy doesn't know if Bansi could have changed the world like she did. Bansi says it's probably impossible. They can't do anything while they have these shackles on them. Leapy hates what is happening so much that it drives her crazy. She struggles to survive on a stage built by someone else. Compared to the cadets, she has a chance, and she understands it. Leapy will try to change the future because she wants to do a lot of things. Mitchell feels like he's going to go crazy at this rate. Even before reaching full awakening, the heart itself possesses mana. Mitchell stumbles upon a necromancer, and he didn't want to cause any trouble anyway. They switch sides for the same reason. Mitchell doesn't know what's going on with the squad members. He just hopes they see it as a sacrifice. Mitchell wondered why he was here at all. Even when he is on the verge of death, he does not understand this. He would like to see his family if there was a chance. The soldiers can't just hand over the carriage to the cadets. There is much less gunfire around than expected. It seems like he's making empty conversation, although every second counts. He posted his location on the battlefield, but even after the noise, as he thought, nothing had changed. But everything turned out differently, and a monster attacked him. Leapy asks him to remove the control bracelets if he wants to come back. The bracelets opened, and the cadets realized that it was Lippy's doing. Bansi reported that Actaeon had gone further into the forest. Lippy takes the bracelet control panel. She asks him to run if he wants to survive. There is no other way. She has confused him enough that he won't follow her. Actaeon stands still when it's so dangerous here. She asks him why he didn't dodge the attacks. It seems like Euskala sent him because of Mitchell. But Actaeon said that he was also a berserker. Actaeon begins to protect them from monsters. For some reason, it only dawns on Leapy when she goes through something similar herself. She doesn't know if things would have been different if she had been more attentive. Actaeon asks Leapy to leave and join Prince Isidore. She herself said that she survived by changing the future. She shouldn't waste her life in a place like this. Actaeon is too afraid to leave Leapy in such a place, and he's afraid he'll lose her the same way he just lost Mitchell. He is so scared that he wants to take back all the words he said last night. Leapy rubs into his head that he is not a monster and never will be. Leapy promises to return before he is in danger. Actaeon is ready to listen to her in everything, and now she will test how obedient he is. Leapy says goodbye to him for a while, kissing him on the lips.